And thank you, Sirvan, for this very generous introduction, though I quite wrote it myself. You know what, when somebody else reads it out, it sounds more interesting. It sounds more gratifying. And very often my wife, when she hears these introductions, says, "ये आपके बारे में बोल रहे हैं." Thank you very much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I was here a couple of months back when I was in the hot seat. And Shweta there was in the cool seat with me. I understand from very confirmed media sources that the moment the session was over, a group of my well-wishers went up to Vivek and said, "Shweta, cool is okay, but तुझे hot में यही बंदा मिला?" To which Vivek said, "अगली बार इसको cool में बिठा देंगे." So this time he called me to say, "Would you take the cool seat?" I said, "I quite will." But then another lobby got up, went to him and said, "Does he look cool to you?" And then there was a huge fight about what seat I should occupy, the hot one or the cool one.
So you got the
and
best
Vivek,
one.
fed up with not knowing what to do, said, "Isko khada hi rakhe." So here I stand before you as a senior speaker for the day. And as I stand before you, I started with the story of how and why I stand before you instead of sitting down. Ladies and gentlemen, of the wide variety of things that I have been, that my introduction covers of the things that I do, most of the things actually relate to the use of my voice, my cricket commentary, my voiceovers, my theatre, my public speaking coaching, everything actually relates to the voice. And I've been doing these things for a very long time, since I went on stage first at the age of 7, and then I was behind the microphone on All India Radio at the age of 8. However, what has given me the maximum learning and the maximum growth is my current status as an author. What it has done is, it has grown my circle of friends. Had that not happened, I wouldn't have been here addressing all of you today. It has grown my knowledge, because I've written about disparate topics. And every time I've researched a topic, I have actually gained in terms of knowledge about that topic. But what I've really gained on are the life lessons that I have learned in the process of becoming an author, and the life lessons that I have learned by interacting with people as an author. Now I intend to share some of them with you today. My first book came out in 2021, the book called Footsteps of Ram Travels with the Ramayana. COVID hit just a day after the book was released, so effectively since first 6 months we sold some 20 copies. And thereafter the sales took off, the book did well for itself. It was translated into multiple languages. Vicky gave it a non-fiction book of the year award, and the web series was made of it. And subsequently I have gone on to write on other books, and one of them is now being made into a movie. Now when all these things begin to happen to you, particularly when you are after 60, something hits you here, and you begin to get that sense of self-importance, and you begin to think that you really, really achieved something. I got that after the first book itself. But then after living with it for a couple of months, I realized that this is not really me. I need to be grounded. So every time I need to be grounded, I go to a bookshop and look for my book. However big an author you are, when you go to a bookstore like Fakirchan or Maharisans or Gunzo, you have to look for your book. And the book is somewhere up there on one shelf in one corner, sandwiched between many others. That is when you realize that you are just one of the hundreds of authors, and your book is just one of the thousands of books that have ever been written. And you are one little insignificant part of the whole. Now this is a life lesson I carry from having become an author. What I want to recommend is, what I want to suggest, humbly suggest is, that please cultivate humility. Do not have a chip on your shoulder and tend to think that you are really something major, because you are actually a very insignificant part of the cosmos. All your actions, however large they seem to you, are really a small part of the changes that are taking place everywhere. Therefore, cultivate humility. Consider your insignificance. And it's not for everybody else, it's for you. Because when you are humble, you are actually opening yourself to interacting with many more people and availing of many more opportunities. When you go with a chip on your shoulder, very obviously, you are cutting off 90% of humanity. And the balance 10 are probably faking it when they praise you. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, humility is a virtue footsteps of Ram. But before that, a whole lot of you will agree that I am actually quite an inspiring person. Many have said that to me. People come up to me, naive people, come up to me and say, "Oh sir, you are such an inspiring person." And the answer that rapidly comes to my mind is, "Pagal hai kya?" Very inspiring. Come on, you must have lost your marbles. But not wanting to disrespect people, I normally smile and make some kind of polite comment on it. But I know that I am inspiring. And inspiration comes in two ways. One, inspiration, when you look at somebody who's achieved a lot and you tend to look up at them and say, "I want to be like him." And another set of inspirations comes when you see somebody achieving something and you think, "Isne kar liya to main to kar hi lunga." Likewise, when I inspire in the second way, I inspire more often in the second way. So when I finished my first book and it came out and it started doing well, I inspired a lot of authors. One of them came to my office one day, a good friend of mine by the name of Neelesh. "Yeah, मैं किताब लिख रहा हूँ." I was overjoyed. I said, "Oh, nice." He said, "My wife is going to do the cover. My daughter is handling the social media, and I have spoken to people in the Habitat Center. We are going to have a launch there." So then I asked him, "That's so good. But what are you writing about?" He said, "ये पता होता तो तेरे पास थोड़ी आता." Is it any surprise that this guy in the last 4 years has not written a single word? Why? The reason is he was not writing because he was fond of writing. He was not writing because he had a story to tell. He was writing because he wanted to be on podcasts, he wanted to be known, he wanted to be on television, he wanted to address Litfest, and he wanted to have a lot of fake people coming up to him saying, "Sir, we are fans of your writing style." And when you ask them, "How many books of mine have you read?" they said, "Nahi, kabhi kharidi hai." So he wanted all that and he thought it was fun. But that, ladies and gentlemen, can never be the motivation of creating any nice piece of work. The motivation for creating anything has to come from within, from a passion. He hasn't been able to write a book. I've been able to write a book because I did not write a book so that I may be able to address the Vibrant Forum. I am addressing the Vibrant Forum because I wrote a book. The sequence is completely changed. So my life lesson from this was, do what your heart tells you to do. Work on the calling of the heart, work on the passion, and create things because you want to create them and not because of what they are going to get for you. And another set of inspirations that set of people I inspire, very often school children who I address, they come up to me and say, "Sir, we want to write like you." To which I instantly respond by saying, "You can't write like me. You can't write like Vivek, you can't write like Tiny or Neeraj or anybody else. Because you've got to write like yourself." Because I write from the totality of my experience. And that totality comes from the billions of neurons that I have interacting with the billions that all of you have over thousands and thousands of transactions over 69 years that I have lived. Now this totality is so unique that it can't be repeated by anyone. Therefore, when you write, you have to write from the totality of your own experience and not from somebody else's. The life lesson for this is, please don't try to be anyone but who you are. You are unique, you are different, and you are what you ought to be, and not any imaginary person, imaginary situation, and imaginary person that social media tells you must be. That's a great life lesson that I have had. One of the advantages of being the last speaker, Vivek tells me, is that the lady will not come up and tell me to stop. Besides, I have also strategically positioned myself in a place where she cannot come and tell me to stop. Therefore, I should continue. My first book in its Hindi translation won the FICCI Best Non-Fiction Book of the Year award for 24-25. It is fortunately one of the very few awards which can't be bought. You have to deserve to be there. But a lot of awards in the real world, in the book world, and I'm sure other worlds too, are actually purchased. I was once asked to enter something called a PILF award. And I was told that my book had been shortlisted. When I asked them what it involved to win it, they said, "You have to post on Facebook, and the one who gets the maximum likes actually wins it." So I withdrew it. I said, "No, this is not the kind of thing I want to be known for." So there is a certain person who won that award. She was She got that award in a very well-publicized ceremony. She put it up on Facebook and she put it up on Instagram, and a lot of her friends came and said, "Oh my God, you're so good." So I bought that book. When I bought that book, I realized the book was only 69 pages. Of those 69 pages, the first 7 pages had her pictures, and the last 11 pages had pictures of the people she had introduced. And those 11 people had written 2 pages each to be on that book. Now, what kind of award-winning book is this? Is it any surprise that that book did not sell over 200 copies? The lesson to be learned from this is that do not take people for granted. Don't think they are all fools and you are too smart and therefore anything that you do will get you through. In the age of social media, it is very easy to pretend that you are actually getting through. But actually achieving something, you have to have content. Work on your content, make it as best as possible, and then look for acclaim. Do not look for acclaim first and then start writing content. My last 2 learnings. The first one is not mine. The first one is from a stand-up comic called Shakir Khan, whom I kind of really look up to as one of the smartest people I've ever seen. He speaks well. He said in one of the interviews, and I'm just taking the story from him, that people come up to him and say, "Never judge a book by its cover." This is a very common template. See, we are all used to thinking in terms of templates. We don't want to dive deep into anything to create a series of thoughts. We just take ready-made templates like manifestation, like never judge a book by its cover, and we just use that as conversation pieces. So he said, never judge a book by its cover, but this is absolutely wrong, because a book is always initially judged by its cover. Those in the publishing industry, those who've written books know that there's a whole huge ecosystem working to create book covers. Because if your cover is not good looking, is not smart, then your book is not only not going to be picked up off bookshelves, it is also not going to be on the bookshelves in the first place. Your cover has to be interesting. What is the life lesson? People react to your cover. And what is your personal cover? Your personal cover is your social background. It's how you look, it's how tall you are, it's what your complexion is like, it's how you look, and all these things are used by people for judging you. And this is not an extract from my next book, which incidentally is called The Random Rants of a Family Man. It's not from that. This is different. That will cover a separate topic. But this particular quote is sound psychological principle. It has been absolutely clearly verified that the tall and attractive always get better offers, and not just in romance, but in jobs and in every other place. Now, you are given a certain height, you are given a complexion, you are given a face. There is not much you can do about your cover. What do you then do? You work so hard on your content that people are forced to overlook the cover and concentrate only on the content that you have. So, ladies and gentlemen, my last learning from this is, do not concentrate on working on the cover. Concentrate on working on the content. Create such a massive buzz on the content that people look at the content and ignore the cover. Now, what is your content? Your content is your intelligence, your wisdom, your depth, your kindness, your empathy, your friendliness, warmth, your being supportive. All these number of things are your content. If you work on them instead of working on your cover, you are always going to have more people coming up to you, more people connecting with you, more people contributing to your growth. Been there, done that, ask me. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings me to the last point. And this is my derivation from what Shakir Khan said. Now, I wrote a book called Uprising, The Liberation of Dadra and Nagar Haveli, which incidentally is the book which is being made into a movie now. I wrote this book. It was about an incident which had not been written about before. It was meticulously researched. It was written in a very fluid style. Anybody who picked up the book raved about it. However, in one of the lit fests that I attended, there were 90 people, 8 books sold. Whereas the former books went into 5 figures of sales within 6 months of being released. I am still struggling with this one. And I have not promoted any book as much as I have promoted this one, going actively all out, even where there was a possibility of 10 copies being sold. But it reaching 10,000 copies is still a little while away. Now, what do I do in this situation? Do I step back and say, I am not a good author, I haven't done a good job? Do I blame the people and tell them, I don't think these people know what good literature is. I don't think I ought not to pay any attention to them. Do I do that? Do I go back and think that I had excellent content, I had written something very good, but maybe it just does not resonate with them. After all, if somebody wants to read a rom-com or a detective novel, this book is not going to be interesting. So it is not necessary that the content, however good it is, will automatically ensure success. Because content by itself is not enough. Youngest, gentlest, most supportive, most friendly, everything that you ever think. But yet when you sit across the table with somebody, it might just not resonate. It would not resonate because, well, everybody's needs are different. And what you are bringing to the table is not in consonance with that person's needs. The life lesson in this is, just as for the book, I did not stop writing. I did not blame myself. I did not blame the people who did not pick up my book. Likewise in life. When the combination of good things that you are does not resonate with people, do not sit back, do not get bitter, do not accuse them, but understand that it does not resonate because everybody's needs differ. Okay, your self-esteem takes a bit of a beating in these cases. But then what do? When you find that the best you bring to the table is just not enough, you get up, you shake yourself, dust off things that are clouding your self-esteem and start walking on. Because after all, there is another book to write, there is a life to live. Thank you very much.